So this is the 4.0 Impact Series, a podcast where we speak to founders, CTOs, CEOs of impactful businesses, just to get a bit of an insight into them, their story, the problem they've identified, and I suppose essentially the solution to that problem. Today, I'm here with Alex Blum, who is the co-founder and Chief Impact Officer of a US-based green tech called Applied Bioplastics. Look, without further ado, I'll just get straight over to you, Alex. If you wouldn't mind, just I suppose start by giving us a bit of an intro into yourself and your backstory.
Certainly. Well, my name is Alex Blum. I'm the Chief Impact Officer of Applied Bioplastics, where we are reducing the carbon footprint of durable plastic goods. So essentially, we're commercializing proven technology to produce a blend of plant fiber and plastic that reduces the carbon footprint of the final materials by between 10 and 80%. So that is the platform that we're working on. We have several different products on that platform. My background is primarily in technology sales. So I came to this through kind of a less common route. I didn't go to school for this.
Okay. Give me some insight. Obviously, I know your backstory, but I think it's an inspirational story. So just give us some insight into perhaps your background, and then I suppose the genesis of Applied Bioplastics.
Yeah, Leighton, sure, happy to. So in 2017, I had been selling technology for quite some time. I was working at a company called Thousand Eyes, which is now part of Cisco, doing network monitoring for the enterprise. I was very good at my job, and as a result, I ended up closing my entire annual quota in the first 2 months of the fiscal year, which resulted in a $500,000 commission check. I was 27 years old at the time. I am an American millennial, so I of course had American millennial debt to pay off. That's the first thing I did, of course, with my new windfall. But I was actually left over with quite a bit, about $300,000. So I decided that 27 years old, no debt, nobody to give this to or pledge this to, and not all that interested in cars. Although looking back, I probably should have bought a house. I decided to give this money to charity. I figured, I'm very good at what I do. I will make more money in the future, but I think it is incumbent upon each of us to give back when we find ourselves in a fortunate place, and I wanted to make a difference. So first, I gave to some local food kitchens in my community. Obviously, starting local is really important. The next thing I did was I started an advocacy group, for a cause that I care about. And then lastly, a friend of mine from Bangladesh, may he rest in peace, came to me and said, we went to college together. I heard you were looking to do humanitarian work, and something very strange is happening in my home country of Bangladesh. 2 million people have crossed our borders as refugees in literally weeks. And I don't know what's causing this, because I'm not up on everything, but I know that these people need help. Would you like to come to Bangladesh with me and see if you can help? And I said, sounds like an adventure. I try to live my life in a way that's going to tell the best story. And so I said, absolutely. If I can get some time off work, I'll do that. So I took a month off work. I did a bit of prep work before getting over there. But I really landed not really knowing what I was getting into, and what I walked into was the Rohingya genocide that was happening in Myanmar. Prior to Ukraine, this was the largest humanitarian crisis of our time. The short version of the story is that China wanted to build a natural gas pipeline through Myanmar into the Bay of Bengal. The Rohingya are a Muslim minority that lived on the coast there. The government of Myanmar did not want to give them the economic benefits of this pipeline being installed, so they decided to genocide them. So walked off the plane and into this massive humanitarian crisis, realized immediately that my piddly $200,000 wasn't going to make anything of a difference to these people. You know, we're talking about 10 cents a person, right? Like, it can't really help. And so I decided to do what I could to you know, get other people to help, which was, you know, I hate this phrase, but raising awareness. You know, I realized that I had to relegate myself to raising awareness. So I set out to do that. And, you know, I have no experience in film, humanitarian work. I really walked into this situation with my eyes closed, and, you know, it's embarrassing in retrospect how I thought that I could really make a difference for such a large problem. But that said, I gathered a crew, and together, you know, the 18 of us went and shot a full-length documentary in the world's largest refugee camp, that went on to win, you know, Best Short Documentary in London, and the World Fest International in Houston, where it was picked up by Amazon. It's now on Amazon where you can watch it. So that's how I ended up in Bangladesh. While I was there, and I'm sorry, this is a very long-winded answer.
No, no, not at all. It's a really interesting story, so I'm glad you're giving us.
Well, thanks so much, Leighton. So I was in Bangladesh, and I was introduced to a gentleman named Dr. Mubarak Ahmed Khan, and Dr. Khan is a Bangladeshi nuclear physicist, and he had spent most of his retirement thinking about the problem of agricultural jute in Bangladesh. Now, there are a lot of people who would be mad at me for calling it a problem. It's the, you know, the national agricultural crop of Bangladesh. The problem with it is that it is no longer demanded as much as it used to be. It used to be the backbone of the British, you know, shipping empire. Jute is great for sailcloth, sackcloth, rope, everything you need to run a shipping empire. And that's why when the British colonized, they actually brought jute to both Bangladesh and India. Now, today, that same plant is used as a rotational crop for rice. So you can't plant rice and then rice and then rice and then rice 4 times a year. You'll deplete your field. So you need to cycle in new plants. So that's what jute is. It's that cycle in plant. The problem is there's not a lot of off takers for jute anymore, because people aren't making sailcloth and sackcloth and rope at the same clip that they did in, you know, the 1800s, right? So the former wealth of Bangladesh's agricultural exports has been greatly diminished, and as a result, it's one of the poorest countries on the planet. So Dr. Khan was working on ways to make jute cellulose useful again. And he's got a number of really cool different inventions, but the one that really caught my eye is the one that I'm holding up in front of the camera here. Now, if this looks like burlap and resin, that's true. It is burlap and resin. The interesting thing about this shiny little piece of material is that it's about 25 years old. It is a plant-based composite that is extraordinarily durable. And I saw that and I said to myself, holy crap, you made a wall. You made a wall, and it's like 80% plant matter, and it's really durable and strong. And, you know, I mean, I don't know if a wall can be dignified, but if you compare that to like plastic sheeting on a tent, that's pretty dang dignified. Yeah. And I said to him, I said, you know, look, this is an amazing invention. I can already envision a circular business model where people in Bangladesh are growing this material, people in Bangladesh are weaving this material, people in Bangladesh are doing the process that you've invented to turn it into a wall, and then people in Bangladesh are living in the house that has been made out of this. I mean, we're talking, you know, housing from nothing, basically, housing that costs nearly nothing, and housing that benefits not only the people who get a roof over their head, but people within their own country who are creating it. And I want to contrast that for a moment in terms of how you see housing done in aid situations, refugees, disasters, that sort of thing. Normally what happens is international aid dollars go into the situation, and then they flow right back out of the situation to go buy supplies elsewhere. This, of course, gets them the supplies that they need, the refugees or the victims of the disaster, but it doesn't create any lasting change within the situation. It simply gets them a one-time boon of supplies. What if those aid dollars could stay in the community? What if those aid dollars went to buy goods and services from the community that then also benefited the community? So this all popped into my head, and I asked him, you know, would you please you know, start a business with me about this? He said, absolutely not. I said, well, why not? And he said, well, I've been working on this for 25 years and I've just met you today. And I said, that's a good point, but let me convince you. So long story short, it took about 6 months to convince him. He sold me the intellectual property for what we're calling a better board, biothermoset resin board here. Mm-hmm. And then helped advise me and the rest of my team in transforming the concept behind better board, which is treating cellulose so that it changes the surface behavior of the cellulose so that it rejects water rather than absorbing water, enabling cross-linking between it and other plastics. And I know that's a lot, and I'll break it down real quick. Mm-hmm. Cellulose is a polymer. It is hydrophilic. It absorbs water. All other plastics are hydrophobic. This is the key to our technology. Essentially, by making cellulose hydrophobic, it will then play nicely and bond with other plastics, enabling plant cellulose's use in durable plastics applications. So that's why the housing works, and that's why the technology that we created together, BioFi or biofiber, works as well, which again, as I described earlier, is a reduced carbon plastic composite that can be used in place of normal homopolymers.
Wow, I think you did that in one breath. So impressive. Look, we obviously we've talked previously. So talk to me a bit more about maybe the application of this in modern day life in the Western world. Where does this fit? What's the product fit?
Certainly. So I think there's two separate product lines that I'm going to address here. So Betterboard, I want to point out, is primarily intended as rescue and transitional housing. It's not really for building a home in the West in the traditional sense. However, it's October right now when we're talking, means it's hurricane season, right? And unfortunately, a lot of people have already lost access to their housing just over the last few weeks. I mean, you've got Puerto Rico got hit, Florida got hit, Canada got hit, and that's going to continue. So one of the things that I see this as an application in the West, as far as the better board goes, is being able to quickly set up transitional housing for people who don't have it. Now, of course, you've got FEMA with their FEMA trailers, but that takes time. It takes time to deploy, and again, kind of has that aid money bouncing into and then back out of the community. Whereas better board, again, the farmers that have been affected, or even the unaffected farmers in a given area, could be making more money by selling their plant material to the government to enable the setting up of this extremely quick housing. By the way, Betterboard takes about an hour to make, and so you could like rebuild a village in less than a week. And if you had all hands on deck, if you had like a large amount of manpower on it, we could rebuild a village in a day. So I do want to point out, it is primarily intended for areas that are used to simpler housing. We see Betterboard as simply a licensing play. We just want to license it to governments. We don't really want to be involved other than that. I don't believe it's moral to be profiting off of other people's pain in this way. So simple, low licensing fee. We'll teach you how to make it. Please make it for your people in case of a disaster. Make it prior to the disaster so that you have easily deployable housing. So that's Betterboard. As far as BioFi, the pelletized thermoplastic, this material costs about the same as normal plastics, has about the same physical properties as normal plastics, and is made and used in the same machines as normal plastic. So use case is normal plastic, right? So what we're looking at here is a commodity that has, something that competes with a commodity while having a vastly lower carbon footprint, while having the same price. So there's no switching cost, and wherever durable plastic is used, that's where we want to do it. While I don't have control over the downstream use cases of my BioFi, as it is a pelletized plastic feedstock, my hope is that it does not get used for things like to-go cups or single-use silverware or grocery bags, right? My personal thesis is that human history stretches back 250,000 years for like 249,950 years, we did not have single-use plastics, and we don't need them. So I would urge everybody listening to get rid of your single-use plastics, refuse to use them. They're not good. We don't need them, and all they do is create more trash. Plastic is one of the most durable, things on Earth, and why would you use that for a single-use application? So my hope is that our plastic is being used for durable applications. We're really tuning it towards the physical properties that are necessary for aircraft and aerospace, tools, toys, technology, transportation components, anything that can be injection molded into a durable plastic, that is a shape that is of something that is intended to be used for the long term. We're talking like keyboards, children's toys, like your car door panel. That is the sort of use case that we've envisioned for BioFi. I want to talk about why that's useful, but I've also realized that I've been talking for the last 5 minutes straight. So
no, not at all, not at all. So just to clarify, so so one of the key USPs here is that from a manufacturing company, for instance, that uses plastic like recyclates in order to produce a widget, a product, there's no retrospective tooling. They don't need to change anything on the machinery. It is literally just like for like replacement,
exactly,
but made from an almost could it ever run out? What's the stats on that?
Yeah, so the neat thing about what we sell is the additive that we have produced, which is called BioFi, is made out of plant material. The planet produces 1 trillion metric tons of cellulose every year without our intervention, right? And then on top of that, you have humans producing all kinds of agricultural waste, humans producing rotational crops like sorghum, like jute, right? So there's a massive amount of feedstock for us to use. We're never going to run out. The question is whether or not the rest of the plastic is going to run out. Because here's the thing: our pellets aren't 100% biomaterial. We have an additive or a co-feedstock. It mixes in at about a 50-50 ratio. So the question really is, what's the other resin? What's the plastic that you're putting into your plant fiber? And the answer is nearly anything. So what we have today is our BioFi bonded with virgin polypropylene. We also have BioFi bonded with recycled polypropylene. And right now we're in 2 paid pilots with some major bioplastics producers to produce something that has a bio-based resin and a bio-based filler, which would make a 100% bio-based composite that could replace oil-based polypropylene, right? So that's the key there, is that what we do is we make every kind of plastic, whether it's virgin, recycled, or bio-based, cheaper and greener, because our stuff's carbon negative. So it's hard to get like less green than that, right? So cheaper and greener. What this does is several things. Number one, it improves the stocks of any sort of feedstock that you're using. So virgin plastic, we have more of it now, and it's greener. Recycled plastic, really big issue with recycled plastic for manufacturers. It's not available. It's really hard to find, right? So you start mixing our plant fiber with that, all of a sudden you've doubled the amount of stock that's available for manufacturers to use. And the same thing goes with bio-based plastics. We're a little bit behind on creating bio-based plastics as a species. They're really expensive. They're kind of rare. And, if you replace that with just the common, humble plant fiber, right, you replace half of it, all of a sudden, again, you've brought down the price, you've brought up the stock numbers,
doubling the availability,
sustainability,
I get it. So, look, I mean, the impact of, if you think of all of the, all the ways that plastic kind of manifests itself, I think the impact speaks for itself. If you can make X amount of that 50% greener, the impact is absolutely huge, especially deriving from an almost infinite plant-based source, which is which is very interesting. Like, I suppose in closing, So where are you guys at the moment? And I suppose what does the next 12 to 18 months look like then in terms of Applied Bioplastics, the company?
Certainly, and I don't want to hijack your question, but I'm gonna anyway. So I want to point out the impact speaking for itself. I think that's true. However, one thing that I don't think people think about is the politics and economics of plastic production. It is extremely centralized within governments and major corporations that have taken you, dear listener, your tax dollars to start wars overseas over that oil supply. And what we're proposing here at Applied Bioplastics is it doesn't have to be that way. What we're saying is put the production of plastic back in the hands of the people, put it back in the hands of farmers and agricultural workers. That is the feedstock, that's the polymer that we can be using. You know, there is a day sometime in the near future where, you know, we're not relying on Exxon or Chevron to produce your oil for you. There's a day where we don't have to, you know, listen to our politicians defend the absolute destruction of our natural environment for the purpose of getting cheap oil. If we as a species can adopt greener materials, biomaterials, it's not just about saving the climate, it's about saving our political systems, our countries, really our souls. From justifying the atrocities that are done in the name of cheap oil. We can really change the world. I'm not saying Applied Bioplastics will, but wide adoption of biomaterials has the potential to change the paradigm around why and when our wars happen as a species. And I think that's really, really important. Now, for the next 12 to 18 months, of course, we're not going to completely change the world of geopolitics and oil wars and whatnot. Oh, by the way, Slavo-Ukrainian, that is yet another example of a war started because, you know, thinly veiled reasons over oil, right? But anyhow, look, so we're hiring right now. I regret saying that we're going to get 1,000 applications for positions we didn't ask for, but no, that happens every time we post a job. It's like 2,500 applications. We're really honored to be, you know, the hottest brand in composites. But you know, it results in having a really excellent team. It also results in having to comb through tons of resumes every time we put out a job rec. But no, in all seriousness, we are raising right now. We are moving into multiple paid pilots. We're really starting to get off the ground finally. As a materials company, these things are slower, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's you know, revenue is slower. Big companies take a long time to make decisions. You know, and so we're right about to break through that recurring revenue, you know, saran wrap sort of thing, right? Like, you know, really hard to get there, but once you get there, the door is open. So we're right around the corner from that. We are raising, you know, potentially a crowdfund early next year, so keep an eye out for that. And as I said, continuing to grow and continuing to you know, prove that biomaterials are the future of plastics. So, you know, Leighton, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the questions.
Thanks for jumping on, and thanks for hijacking the question. I think understatement of the year goes to me when I said that the impact speaks for itself. But I'm glad you give some additional context on that. Yeah, genuinely. Look, Alex, I've really enjoyed this conversation. You know, both from a personal and a commercial perspective. I think it's a really inspirational story. And look, I really look forward to watching you know, you and the team at Bioplastics grow and obviously increase your impact. So yeah, look, excellent. Thank you very much for jumping on this, and yeah, keep up the great work.
Thanks so much, Leighton. Have a great day.
Cheers.